My name is GregHoskins. I'm the director of the Augustine and Culture Seminar Program, and it's my pleasure and honor to be able to welcome you to the Spring 2021 Writing Awards. It's also my honor to introduce one of our guests today who's come from the Dean's Office, and also to introduce our Writing Awards Committee and to turn things over to your MC today, who is Ms. Julie Studer. She's the chair of the Writing Awards Committee and also our tutor manager here at Villanova. So the first thing I want to do is to congratulate all of you, all the winners for being here. Congratulations. It's always an achievement. I'll let you know, I work as an editor for a couple of professional journals. Your essays were read a lot more closely by a lot more people than happens sometimes in my profession. It's an achievement. It's an achievement in any year. But may I say, it's also a particular achievement, your awards for the spring of 2021. It's a testament, I think, to resiliency and to your own preparation. We can't deny that it was a little more, although we were here in person, it was still a little more stressful and anxious and peculiar of a semester than normal. So again, congratulations. I am also aware, and I think this is not too controversial, right, that no one learns how to write alone or by themselves, right? That writing well is a, I'd say, group project over time. I say that as the father of a 7-year-old who's now looking at 3-sentence stories, right? He's already started in the 2nd grade. So there's a few people, I think, then, who we should thank. And first and foremost, and especially those who are able to join us, your parents. And you're beginning in elementary school, but the teachers who helped you in networking as well. So for the parents and for everyone else who's helped you with your writing before you got here to Villanova, thank you as well. I also want to thank in particular my colleagues, your professors, your ACS professors that are here with you today, that were able to mentor you last year, or at least last spring, if you had them only for a single semester. So I'd like to thank my colleagues as well. Thank you for your work. Make sure I don't forget anybody. If we were in slightly different circumstances, I would have invited our colleague, Mary Beth Simons, who's the director of the Writing Center. And so at least because we're in a public forum and we're online, I'd still like to give a shout out to our wonderful Writing Center. It's a tremendous resource here at Villanova University, and I hope, sort of anticipate that all of you have had some opportunity to go into the Writing Center at some point during your first year here at Villanova. But the Writing Center is a tremendous resource here on campus. So I also wanted to thank the Writing Center. So by way of a little more specific introductions, I do think I'd like to acknowledge the work of the ACSP Writing Awards Committee. So I've mentioned Julie Studer, who's the chair of the committee. The other committee members are Betsy Springle, Alex Various, and Peter Bush. They read a tremendous number of essays, but I'll let you know, you can feel confident that they read them carefully, they read them well, that the process, they paid attention clearly to what they were doing in that process. I've got to check my notes as well. So, at this point then, it is my pleasure to introduce a guest that we have with us today from the Dean's Office. So Dean Dr. Crystal Lucky, who is the Associate Dean for Baccalaureate Studies here at Villanova in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. But I'm also very happy because before you begin to administrative work, your home department is English.
And I'm still teaching every semester.
Thank you, Professor Lucky, for joining us.
Thank you, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for that introduction and for the connection to my department, because part of what I didn't want to forget what I wanted to say. First of all, I want to say thank you for allowing me to join. I know that the circumstances are different this semester, where normally you might allow a lot more people to come in, I'm really glad to be able to be here. Also, I do want to say, on behalf of Dean Lindenmeyer as well, she sends her regards and congratulations as well. I am going to have to leave, and it is because Dean Lindenmeyer is right now doing an online faculty town hall, and I feel like I need to connect and be a part of that. So please forgive me for leaving, because otherwise I would stay. I do want to echo the thanks that you have said from the Dean's office. The work of ACS, I think all of us feel this way, is incredibly important. And it is in part, in addition to all of the hard work you do in your individual courses, it is one of the only things that links all Villanova students together, no matter the college, right? Every Villanova student, I mean, I guess maybe theology as well, but every single Villanova student, whether they are a nurse or an engineer or a historian or a stargazer, no matter who they are, they've taken ACS. And it becomes this kind of, kind of shared bond as well. And so I really wanted to say thank you to the students in the room. Thank you for taking it so seriously. And also, thank you for your resiliency. I have been, I'm also in the classroom, as I said, I still teach one course a semester. And for me, every semester, it's an overload to my job as an associate dean, but I think teaching is important, and it is important for me to remain in the classroom and remain connected to all of you. The other thing that I wanted to say is that one of my responsibilities as an associate dean is that I have the unfortunate job of working with students who get accused of academic integrity violations, unfortunately. And one of the most common examples of academic integrity violations that I see are because students were told that they shouldn't use outside sources. They grapple with the text, they freak out because they know they should use outside sources, but they need help, and then they go to the outside source, but then of course, because you weren't supposed to use the outside source, you can't cite the source. And it's one of those, I see it over and over and over again, and I am very sympathetic to it because I understand many of the texts that you grapple with in ACS are somewhat alienating to you, right? The language is different, the setting is different. But I really wanted to thank you all, and you're really shining examples, those of you who are being recognized today, for the hard work in the humanities of grappling with the text. And that's what I still teach, and it's what I still value, and I hope, I know all of my colleagues in here, we value that, what it means to get in there, roll up your sleeves, and work with the text. So thank you, congratulations to all of you that are being recognized, and thank you to all of the instructors. Your work is so important, and we just, on behalf of the college, I just want to say thank you. So I hope that everything goes great. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to join.
I should mention, this is the end of my third month in my job, my new job. So there was one person I forgot to thank, and that's just a rookie mistake. But the other person I wanted to thank is our senior office manager, Ms. Kim Coleman. Not only is she responsible for the gift bags we have, but she plays an instrumental role with actually making that website where you submitted your papers to actually make that thing work and to make sure that all of the papers end up getting where they go. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Greg. Well, it has been a real honor to be the Writing Awards Committee Chair this year, this semester, and we've had a really great team. So I wanted to just offer another very brief thank you to Betsy, Peter, and Alex, And of course, Kim, without whom none of this could happen because we wouldn't even have your papers. They wouldn't have even been submitted. So again, thank you so much, Kim. So we are thrilled to be recognizing such a talented, creative, and hardworking group of student writers today. To introduce our first award, I would like to invite Dr. Anna Moreland, Director of the Honors Program, to the podium to facilitate the Seamus Heaney Award for Excellence in an essay written for an honors section of ACS. If you wouldn't mind, just because we have people tuning in on the, thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Anna Moreland, the Director of the Honors Program. Delighted to be with you here this afternoon. I taught in ACS for years and really treasure the program. Just want to echo what everyone has said. Thank you to Greg, the whole program. It's just, it's a cornerstone of a Villanova education, as it sounds like you all already appreciate that yourselves. So I'm here to recognize the winner of the Seamus Heaney Award from the Honors Program. Seamus Heaney, as you might know, was an Irish poet who won the Nobel Prize of Literature in 1995, and he actually visited Villanova as a faculty member in 1988, and then again in 1996. So I'm reminded of what the St. Augustine quote that I think you all heard at orientation, "Become what you are not yet," in a quote of Seamus Heaney, that there is a risk and truth to yourself and the world before you. Honors would like to express gratitude to the ACS program and especially to GregHoskins for their partnership and to celebrate our award winner, Katie Jordan. But I'll invite Dr. McGuire, who was her tutor, to come up and say a few words about her particular piece. I'm really sorry.
Great. Well, I'm Dr. Stephen McGuire. I had Katie in ACS. Thanks to everyone for making this possible, and to the committee for going through all of the essays and selecting Katie as one of the winners. Katie was a real pleasure to have in class. I'm not overstating things to say that I think she's one of the best students that I've ever had in ACS. I was immediately impressed by both her abilities as a writer in terms of style, but also as a thinker. She was already thinking on a level that I don't know if I've ever seen it before in ACS, to be honest. It was very impressive. And we were doing the honors section that we were in. The subtitle is The True. So we studied the good in the fall and then the true in the spring. And so the title of Katie's paper, Nietzschean Truth, an Oxymoron We Know in King Lear, is the first paper that she wrote during the semester on the true. And I do have to say, I can't really take very much credit for this paper. First, because I didn't write it, Katie did, but also because I didn't even write the prompt. Helena Tomko wrote the prompt. This is a class that is already largely designed, or was largely designed before I joined teaching it. And so I should give a hat tip to Helena as well. But Katie really did do a marvelous job with the paper, and I think honestly almost any paper that she wrote over the course of last year could have been submitted and possibly won a writing award. But I just want to read one last little bit from the end of her paper, and I read it because when a student wins this award, we select a book as a gift to them. And so the first book that I selected for Katie, am I allowed to reveal the book at this point? That's fine? Yeah, okay. I don't know if there's like some big reveal later. But so the first book I selected is Thucydides' History of the Peloponnesian War. And the reason I selected that is because you mentioned at one point that you might be interested in a career in international relations. And I thought, well, since this is ACS, I will get you the greatest book that has arguably ever been written on that subject. But then I was talking to Dr. Tomko, and she mentioned that you also seem to have an interest in existentialism and perhaps Camus. Is that Is that correct? So, and then I went back and read your paper, and it really is quite existentialist at the end. You say, whether or not the universe cares if we live or die, in joy or in agony, does not change the fact that such things matter to we who do the living and dying. That things can matter to human beings, that we can matter to one another, even against the backdrop of an oblivion with no regard for or measure of morality. Therein precisely lies the truth of our dignity. By the fact that it exists, it is true, which I think is, that's a great example of the quality of her writing style as well. So I got you a second book, which is Albert Camus' The Plague, which is an existentialist classic. And incidentally, I know we're all sick of COVID, but there's a famous part of the history of the Peloponnesian War where Thucydides talks about a famous plague that strikes Athens during the middle of the war, and then Camus' The Plague is obviously also about a plague. So I suppose that theme is somewhat appropriate too. But in any event, it was a pleasure having you in class, and congratulations on the award.
If you wanted to say something, you're more than welcome to. Sure. I'll keep this quick. I just wanted to say I'm really honored and grateful to be able to be receiving this award, and I just wanted to extend thanks to the ACS faculty and especially to Professor McGuire for doing such a great job of facilitating our class and lending so much encouragement throughout the last year. One of the things that I appreciated so much about our ACS classes were how they threw the largest questions of the human experience at us, who we are, what we mean to one another, and how our perceptions of eternity and the great hereafter influence the way that we conceive of ourselves and interact with one another, both in structured, like political context, but also in the more casual day-to-day of our lives. Before taking ACS classes, I felt as though I understood the transcendentals, the goodness, truth, and beauty, at least to the extent where I could rationalize a bit of existential comfort and make enough sense of things so as to understand that most things in this world are pretty senseless, even if the world is still enduring. ACS taught me how to articulate these ideas in a more critical yet empathetic way, and challenged me as well to both defend these ideas and reconcile them with opposing philosophies that I hadn't considered before. So I'm very, very appreciative of that. So I'll just end by saying thank you once again to everyone, and congratulations as well to the other students here. Great job. All right, thank you very much to Dr. Moreland, Dr. McGuire, and Ms. Jordan. So our next award, the Earl Vader Award for Creative Writing, is named after a long-standing and much-admired professor in the ACS program. We have both an honorable mention and a final award winner in this category. Both of these pieces were filled with delights and surprises, which are the things that we're looking for when we read the creative writing category. We want something that delights and surprises. And they also showcase very strong emerging creative voices. So first I'd like to invite Dr. Shara Arman to the podium, along with her student, Ms. Gina.
Yes, Gianna. Thank you.
Gianna.
I am so happy that Gianna's essay is being recognized with an award today, and I really encourage you to read this essay. She creates in it a journey into multiple worlds in a really magical essay that reads like a film script. So it is not surprising that she is a computer science student who is very interested potentially in working in game design. And I actually did not know that when I first read this essay, I don't think. I was really delighted when I got to immerse myself in what turned out to be a very sophisticated emulation, not only of Walt Whitman's ideas in Song of the Rolling Earth, contrasted with Francis Bacon's and John Locke's views of the natural world, and then enriched by Native American botanist Robin Wall Kimmerer's musings on the pronouns that we use to describe the natural world. One of the fine points of this essay is the way that it shows not only the potential impact of poetry and the evolution of ideas and their variable impacts in Western culture over time, but Gianna also manages to provide a very convincing explanation of Whitman's mysterious architects. And I was really relieved because every year when I teach this poem, students and I kind of throw up our hands. Who might the architects be? Well, Juliana gives us a convincing answer to that. Again, I hope that you will read this essay and appreciate not only the depth of Juliana's understanding of the texts and the authors she chose to work with, but her ability to weave together multiple complex threads in just a few pages with magical realism and graceful prose. So congratulations, Juliana. It was my great pleasure to get to teach you and see you produce this. And I also want to emphasize, I don't think I advised on this essay at all. We may have talked just a little bit about ideas, but Juliana crafted this entirely independently, which is all the more impressive. Your gift, Juliana, is a recently published book on the creative process in tech design and game design. It's a series of thoughtful essays written by people who work in the field and have sort of stepped back almost philosophically to reflect on process and successes and failures. So congratulations.
Thank you so much for the great introduction and for the wonderful book. I'm looking forward to reading it. Yeah, I really would not have been here today without the guidance from my wonderful professor, Dr. Shara Arman, guidance through the texts that we discussed and that I discussed in the essay, as well as for encouraging me to submit to the awards. Speaking of the awards, I'd like to thank everyone for making this possible today and for the committee for recognizing my essay. Like Dr. Arman said, I was able to write it about something that I'm really passionate about, which is the environment and how human development and ideas have impacted it through the ages and what we can do with that going forward. I was really lucky to be in an ACS class that focused on environmental issues, and it's a pretty high-profile topic right now. But the fact that so many people are talking about it means that there are a lot of people out there who care, and as long as people care about it, I believe that we can use that to create action and work towards a greener future. So I'm happy to be able to convey that today and through the texts from our history. So thank you again for the honor, and congratulations to everyone else here.
Thanks to you both. And now I would like to invite Dr. Emma Slanina, if you could come join us, along with your student, Ms. Scott. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and to the committee for reading all of these papers over the course of the competition. My name is Emma Slonina. I am one of the ACS professors. This is only my second year here, so I feel like I'm part of ACS royalty being here with one of my students, an award winner. And I'm very proud to be able to celebrate Min Chow's work through the Earl Vader Creative Writing Award for her paper entitled, "Hey Venetians, Portia here, your one and only source into the scandalous lives of Belmont's elite." This was her final paper for Moderns, which was the culmination of our final project, which was a performance of a mock trial of Shylock in The Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare's play. Min Chow was randomly assigned the role of Portia in our trial, and not only showed her theatrical talents, for which she has a passion for, she's involved in Villanova theater as well, but also in this paper exemplified her thoughtfulness and her creativity in interpreting Portia's various relationships with the other characters in the play. She develops a more deep relationship between Portia and her servant, Nerissa, and explores the unexpressed thoughts of a woman who is condemned to marry the suitor that has to solve the puzzle of her late father. In her writing, she combines a deep understanding of the text itself, but also an understanding of the complexities of the human condition and the relationships between these different characters in a very creative way, as well as adding in a few very humorous references to Gossip Girl as well, hence the title. This is just one of her excellent papers she produced in my Ancients class and my Moderns class. I had the pleasure of teaching her for a full year last year. And I am again very proud to celebrate her well-deserved achievement here today.
as she is in the middle of Legally Blonde with her friends as well, producing that this weekend. As Elwood says at the end of her acceptance speech, or her commencement speech, Min Chao, we did it.
So thank you so much for that very, very kind and lovely introduction. I have to be honest, I'm still a little bit in shock that I won an award for an essay that ends XOXO Gossip Girl. Regardless, I am still so thrilled to be here, and I would like to thank the Writing Awards Committee for this absolute honor. Like Dr. Sonina said, my name was quite literally pulled out of a bag. She pulled out a little slip of paper with my name on it, and I was Portia. And the kicker is that I was actually kind of disappointed. We were assigned to these roles before we read the play, so we could pay special attention to our characters, and I had really, really, really wanted to be a lawyer. But once we started reading the play, I was kind of like, you know what, I think I might be okay with this one. As we read, and as I wrote my paper, Portia became not just a frilly collared Shakespearean leading lady, but a flesh and blood woman who was real and honest and heartbroken. As much as my paper relies on seeing this play as a whole through a queer lens, and as much as the play itself is about Antonio, Shylock, and Bassanio, to me it's always been Portia's story. Maybe that's because she was assigned to me, and so I paid special attention to her, but it is her who indirectly kickstarts the play's action, and her who ultimately saves the day. I cannot say whether I would have enjoyed this play or writing this paper less had I been given a different character, but what I do know is that I am so, so grateful to have been given the opportunity to write it. Because sometimes things work out. Sometimes you end up in the ACS section that's absolutely perfect for you. Sometimes your name is drawn out of a hat at the exact right time, and sometimes you win an award for a paper that ends XOXO Gossip Girl. Thank you so much, and congratulations to all the other winners.
All right, so I guess we all now need to go get our tickets for Legally Blonde this weekend. We've been give it a little preview. Oh no, okay. Well, that's wonderful. Congrats on that. Okay, thank you very much. So our next award category is the Flannery O'Connor Award, named after the American 20th century author best known for her haunting themes of grace, faith, and transformation in such works as A Good Man is Hard to Find. This award honors the essay written in a moderns class that best articulates continuing conversation on Augustinian themes in more modern contexts. I would like to invite Dr. Craig Carpenter to tell us a bit about Elisabetta and her accomplishments with this paper.
Thank you. I'm going to keep my remarks brief because Betta is the one who wrote the really fine essay. It is three things I think really stand out about Betta's accomplishment. One is she's here to win an award for acclaim, and yet I think that the process also shows the value and the virtue of humility. Betta worked really hard over the course of our semester to revise this, and in that sense she always demonstrated an ability to think, how can this paper be better? How can, and a draft is great, but good papers go through revisions. And I think that's something that we stress a lot in our class. And that process of learning how to write and learning your voice through the process of writing is something that I think Betta's paper really reflects quite well. The other is close reading of text, and Dr. Lucky spoke about this a bit. Betta's got a very sharp attention to the text. Specifically, she was putting Augustine's Confessions into conversations with Leo Tolstoy's The Death of Ivan Ilyich. And to show how a very, almost typically modern concern with societal influence and pressures that Tolstoy gives voice to through his novella actually echoes so much of what Augustine himself experienced 1,000 years before. 1,500 years before, I think helps to show how what we do across both fall and spring and ancients and moderns is something that's an enduring conversation, because so much of what Betta gives voice to, the students in the class and Betta herself resonate. These are also pressures and concerns that I feel too. And so in that sense, she was exploring not just ancient and a modern, but also a very contemporary concern. And I think the other then is finally reflection of that is the cross conversations. These conversations continue, and I think in that way, thinking about how can we continue to update the past to help us understand the present is something that Betta's essay excels in. And so with that in mind, the book that I selected for her is not going to be a surprise in some ways. It is actually the full collection of Tolstoy's shorter fiction, because there's much more there. And so the novella that we read is also contained in it, but you may want to combine your own talents with our screenplay writing award winners also, because in my view, if I could somehow make Haji Murat into a screenplay, I think we could all retire comfortably. His writing is so vivid that I think that you're going to be able, with your close reading, to be able to find value and gold mines in it as well. So congratulations.
Okay, so I want to say thank you to everyone that made this possible, and thank you so much to the committee for reading through so many essays and coming down and deciding that mine was the winner. And also congrats to everyone that won an award and everyone mentioned. We all worked so hard for all of this. And I gotta say, before going into the ACS program, I was terrified of the name Leo Tolstoy, absolutely with all my heart. And he ended up being my favorite author that we went through the whole semester, and the fact that I was even able to connect his work to Augustine's just blew me away. And again, thank you so much to everyone here, and again, for the award, we did it. Yeah, that's all. Thank you, guys.
So we now come to the final category for this afternoon's awards. The Margaret Cecilia Baney Award is named after an educator with extremely close ties to Dr. Jack Doody, who was the founder and first director of the Augustine and Culture Seminar Program. Sister, Margaret Cecilia Baney, was an English professor and a dean at Immaculata University. Now, this award category, which recognizes those pieces which best exemplified excellence in first-year academic writing, is our most competitive category. We will be presenting 2 honorable mentions and 1 final award winner. So I'd now like to invite Dr. Liam Kavanagh to tell us about our first honorable mention recipient, Sarah.
Good afternoon. My name is Liam Kavanagh, and I had the great pleasure of being Sarah's ACS professor for the entirety of the academic year last year. And it was no surprise to me at all to hear she was being recognized today. Not only was she a fantastic writer, but she was an excellent student all around, and it was an absolute pleasure to have her in the classroom. So in ACS, one of the things we try to do is we encourage students, as we're reading these great texts together, to seek out and discover the insight and wisdom that these texts have, and to find ways to apply it in their own lives. And that was actually the challenge of this particular assignment. The students had to pick one of the authors we'd read and do just that. And Sarah happened to pick one of my favorites, which is the ancient Roman philosopher Seneca. And she wrote a fantastic paper, and not only was it incredibly well written, but what I particularly appreciated about it was Sarah's ability to identify and explore very subtle distinctions in the text, which I think is not only a sign of a wonderful writer, but also of a wonderful reader, because of course these 2 skills go hand in hand together, reading and writing. And she also, I should mention as well, I think rather successfully explored, if not indeed resolved, the age-old universal human question: why is it that we get so frustrated when we can't find the TV remote? So if you want the answer to that question, make sure to read Sarah's paper. So we have a gift for you, Sarah. This book is actually a recent translation of some of the writings of another Stoic philosopher, Epictetus, who was a big influence on Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and others. So I hope you enjoy the book, and I hope you continue to read the great texts and to find insight and wisdom you can apply to your own life. So congratulations.
Thank you. Hey everyone, hope everyone's doing well. I'd just like to thank everyone for having me today, the committee for reading my essay, and congrats to all the other winners. So yeah, last semester in the spring and the fall, but last semester for my moderns essay, which is what I wrote this essay for, I was in moderns with Dr. Kavanagh every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 a.m. So nothing like rolling out of bed and doing some, ACS reading and discussions. So yeah, even though it was a hybrid class where we only met every so often, I think we met in Bartley like 3 times over the full course of the semester maybe. Even though it was a hybrid class, Dr. Kavanagh still found a way to engage all of the students in the class and really gave us the most close to normal that we possibly could have had for last year, which is saying a lot. So yeah, freshman year was an interesting year, but I'm glad that that class was part of it. So by incorporating like engaging class discussions or fun group projects and lots of humor, Dr. Kavanagh was able to teach us all, and yeah, I really tapped into my philosophical side in that class, which is kind of off for me because I'm a STEM major, I'm in environmental science, so you know, philosophy isn't my strongest suit, I would say, going in, but then coming out, I realized that we can all do everything we want, and it doesn't have to just be one subject that you excel in. So with this in mind, I wrote my paper on Senecan philosophy, with lots of ease and dedication, and I'm still looking for the TV remote, but I'm not as frustrated about it because we're able to learn about that. So I was so lucky to have Dr. Kavanagh as my professor and to be in that class, and lucky to be here today. So thank you guys.
I have a 1-year-old who often hides the TV remote, so I found that part particularly resonant when I was reading those essays. Okay, and so now I'd like to invite Dr. Jenny Joyce to tell us about honorable mention recipient Luke D'Alessandro.
Thanks, Julie. Hi, everyone. I am delighted to introduce Luke D'Alessandro, whose essay entitled The Pitfalls of Idealism as Depicted by Voltaire and Shakespeare has been selected for the honorable mention for the Margaret Cecilia Baney Award for Best Student Writing in ACS. I've had the privilege of teaching Luke from his start at Villanova, as he was part of the very first cohort of Social Justice and Inclusivity, the ACS Communitas that began last year, which has now grown into 3 sections from the one that Luke was a part of. And we did have our challenges last year meeting solely online, but Luke and his classmates rose to the occasion and were able to build community and advance their critical thinking and argumentative writing skills. I've found Luke to be a thoughtful, self-possessed, creative thinker with an intellectual curiosity that stands out among his peers. This essay, written in the modern section midway through the spring semester, asks students in one option to formulate an argument about the characterization of love in Shakespeare's As You Like It and Voltaire's Candide. Luke offered a paper that achieved what it set out to accomplish and more. His prose is beautifully consistent throughout, and his nuanced close reading offers a fresh look at these 2 texts, for which I was very grateful. The paper essentially argues that by recognizing the unrealistic nature of perfect ideals, we gain the awareness necessary to actualize often imperfect and transient pursuits, not just of love, but of ourselves. And so as your gift, the book that I've chosen is the 2020 prize-winning book, Cast, The Origins of Our Discontent by Isabel Wilkerson. And Luke, I want to tell you about this book because according to Wilkerson, caste is the granting or withholding of respect, status, honor, attention, privileges, resources, benefit of the doubt, and human kindness to someone on the basis of their perceived rank or standing in hierarchy. So as Wilkerson delves into an exploration of the Indian caste system, the Nazi caste system, and the American caste system, she points to ways America can move beyond the artificial and destructive separations of human rankings and divisions toward hope in our common humanity. And so my hope is that Cast's fresh, thought-provoking prose will inspire you to keep using your writerly voice in the fight for social justice and equality. So congratulations, Luke.
So I don't quite have anything prepared to say, but I think Professor Joyce did such a beautiful job talking about me the past couple of minutes. I'd like to repay the favor. I've always had a tendency to get a little overconfident in my work, and it's for that reason that I've always appreciated throughout my life teachers who push me and other students to improve. And I can recount multiple times throughout my time in Professor Joyce's class that even when I thought my work was flawless, she still found ways to critique it. And I just want her and everyone else to know how much I appreciate that. I don't know if I've ever had a teacher who took the time to care about her students and get to know her students as human beings as much as Professor Joyce did for me and everyone else that was in our class last year. And I want you to know how much I appreciate that as well. I don't think I would have taken the time to submit this paper if Professor Joyce didn't encourage me to. And I think, I don't know if it's your authenticity, but she has a way of waking us up to our potential. And I ended the year with her proud of what I was able to produce because she honestly left me no other option, but still feeling like there was many ways that I could improve. And I think in part due to your encouragement, I continue to strive to improve today. And yeah, I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate the opportunity to have been taught by you and to get to know you as a human. And I think just keep doing what you've done. Yeah, thank you.
This is your award.
So now it is with great pleasure that I invite Dr. Noelle Dolan, former chair of the Writing Awards Committee and current assistant director of the ACS program, to introduce our recipient of the Margaret Cecilia Baney Award, Peter Keepman.
I started that walk early because I knew it was going to take us a while to get up here. So thank you very much for having us here today. And it's fun to be on the other side of things, Julie, and not have had to read everything. But I do lament because I always enjoy seeing the range of essay responses that students have, as well as the fabulous topics that my peers come up with. So I'm looking forward to reading all the essays in the booklet, which I had to wait this year to get today. So fun. So we're here up at the podium here to honor Peter. Peter Keepman was a student of mine last year in my Communitas Art and Culture section. So I had, as others have had, Peter for the entire year and was able to see the arc of his writing development throughout the year, as well as the development of his intellectual interests and development as a student. And I have to say that I was so excited at the start of this year to see him on campus. I don't know if you guys know this as students, but your professors do wonder, like, what happens to you and where do you go? And I actually ran up to him in this very building when I saw him at an event. I was like, Peter, you're back. And I was probably more excited than you were to see me.
No, it's
but,
mutual. It's mutual.
Okay, good. So the essay that Peter wrote that's being honored today is The Thomistic Thought of Martin Luther King, Jr. And if you read it, you'll see that although he does throw in a mention to St. Augustine at the start, the essay reveals where his heart is, which is with Thomas Aquinas. So it's a wonderfully nuanced reading of Dr. King's letter from Birmingham jail through the lens of Thomistic look at human dignity and a moral center. And Peter, within it, connects Aquinas' teaching on the unity of man-made code and divine law to Dr. King's opposition to unjust laws and his civil disobedience through a letter that he wrote while he was jailed for an act of civil disobedience. And one of the interesting things in the letter to me is that Peter also includes a reference to the rebuke that Dr. King had received by 8 white clergymen, and he deconstructs their argument using the same Thomistic approach so that it no longer has a center. And he uses within it, too, Aquinas' definition of the common good as directed to serving the people. And to me, that speaks to a state that I see within Peter's own caritas, and that is this continued development of appreciation for the human condition, our relationship with the divine, and our connections with one another. And I'm glad to see that you're part of Beth Hassel's Faith and Learning Scholars program, which is going to continue that development for you and the growth of your compassion and connection to others. Last year, Peter was honored with the Robert Russell Award for his paper on St. Augustine. It was actually a look at Monica's role in Augustine's conversion and understanding of his faith. And I think that also speaks to Peter's ability to understand the interconnectedness that we all play in supporting one another and developing each other more fully as human beings, and the support that we give one another on our journeys. And so I have been so grateful to be part of your journey in your first year at Villanova, and I hope that you give me metaphorical postcards of your stopping points along the way as you continue your intellectual travels. And so I have here a book. If you pull it out, you will recognize that I have given up on the Augustine. Last year I gave him a book on Augustine. This year I read a compendium source book on Thomas Aquinas. So, yes. Okay. There you go, Peter.
Wonderful.
Congratulations.
Well, first of all, I'd like to, of course, thank Professor Dolan for giving us a reasonable latitude in the ACS course to embrace different thinkers than perhaps St. Augustine would have preferred we embrace with his Neoplatonic thought. But I should mention it was interesting. Earlier today I was reading Aquinas' treatise on law again for a different class, and it is funny how Augustine is duly credited throughout. So there's the contradiction is somewhat mitigated, but it's been an absolute joy to go through the ACS course process, because I think, for me personally, it's really opened up a whole nother metaphysical sphere of our existence. I think with so much emphasis being placed on very kind of meritocratic credential gathering in our education sphere today, something like ACS is so important to provide human formation versus having a college education that's just simply information being crammed into the mind. And so with that, in looking at Dr. King and this paper, what was really, really joyous for me to kind of discover is that someone like Dr. King, ironically, because of all the good that he did, his thought has been a little bit overlooked, and he was, in his thinking, such a deep appreciator of ancient thought and, of course, medieval scholastic thought. And so what was really exciting was to kind of put that out there and put out how someone like Dr. King wasn't simply a reactionary or someone who just kind of did knee-jerk resistance to understandable evils. He was someone who recognized that the evils of the civil rights infringement era were not simply evils in the present, they were eternal evils, because they were something that would always be wrong. And that's exactly why he uses Aquinas and his message of eternal, natural, and divine laws. And so with that, again, I'd love to thank Professor Dolan for giving us this great academic opportunity in class, and to congratulate everyone else who won Writing Awards today. Thank you.
And next you can find Peter over at the football game, where he will be participating in the pep band, if I understand correctly. A quick change and a new role for the afternoon there. So I just want to offer our deep thanks to all of you writers. You gave so much of your time and your talent to craft these essays. It really was a pleasure to read them, and as you know, faculty don't say that lightly. It was truly a pleasure to read them. And we want to wish you great continued success in both your written endeavors, your academic endeavors, everything else that you're involved in. Our thanks also to your professors and the ACSP program, College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, for setting aside the time and the funds to recognize and applaud the works of these student writers. Writing is really hard work. It is very hard work. And other than maybe a grade on the top corner, or even maybe emailed sometimes these days, or input in Blackboard, we don't really get the opportunity to celebrate it together in person. So that's why things like the ACS Writing Awards, they matter, because what you did is very difficult to do well. Okay, so award recipients, in a moment I'm going to ask you to join me up here by the mural so we can take a group picture before you go off into the sunset of your Friday evening. And I want to remind all of our in-person guests, we do have some cookies in the back. Please do feel free to take some with you. Our tree lighting service is going to take place right outside in about an hour. So if you want to stick around, enjoy your cookie, and see some of the festivities on campus, we'd love to have you. Thank you all for being a part of our celebration today. Also, our online guests who were able to join us. We wish you a beautiful winter break and continued happy writing.